All right guys, welcome back. We got our bumper, and yes, it came folded in a box, but that's okay. These are made from polyurethane, so it's not normal plastic like any aftermarket bumpers or factory bumpers. So it's made to be flexible. KBD mainly deals with drift cars. So what makes these bumpers work really well with drift cars is they don't crack, and they can handle getting hit and all kinds of abuse. But what's that mean for us Charger guys? Well, not a whole lot of us are out drifting their Chargers. But this may provide a cheaper alternative to trying to source a factory SRT8 bumper because they're getting hard to find. And this just may be a cost-effective alternative. So we'll see. First thing we need to do is get this out of the box, and then we'll go from there. Now I know what you're thinking. No way this thing is going to turn out well. But bear with me, I think we can make it look good. Now you can see it's pretty folded and wavy, but a little heat should fix it. But one thing I just want to point out is all the indentions are there for your holes. The factory bumper bracket should fit in there, and then the grill will pop in. And I had to order the lower grill. I just got an OEM one off eBay. Fog lights, same thing. We'll have to put holes in there for the fog lights. And then the fender liners as well. All your holes are marked. I'm pretty sure this is molded right after a factory bumper, so the edges will definitely need cleaned up, but not too bad. It's smooth. Now another thing I want to note is, yeah, it's flimsy, but it's not as flimsy as you'd think it would be. Also having the grill in there, the lower grill, push pins along the top, having the fender liner attached in here will make this thing way more sturdier. So I think what we're going to do is throw it outside in the sun. Now you have two ways to get this thing back to its original form. One easiest way is just stick it outside in the sun. That's if you have nice hot sunny days, just throw that thing out there and just let it bake, which is what we're going to do. Option two is heat gun. You can take a heat gun to this, or maybe even a hair dryer, and just slowly heat it up till it gets back to its form. I'm going to choose the sun route. It's about 80 degrees right now today here in Indiana. Nice sunny day. And the sun will heat this thing way more evenly than you could with a heat gun. And we'll just let it bake for a couple days out in the sun and see what happens. All right, that's where it's going to live for a couple days. Hopefully it gets back to shape. All right guys, it's been about a week. Let me show you how this thing turned out. All right, you can see it's pretty good. All the waviness came out of it for the most part. There's only a couple spots. It's kind of bowed right there. And I think same thing here. But once that grill shell gets in here, that should flatten out. Also, it's kind of bowed right here. Again, you know, once we put the belly pan in and secure it to this, it might help. And I might take a heat gun to it just for those one spots, but for a week sitting in the sun, I mean, it looks pretty good. So I got the factory bumper off. I want to test fit this one. So what we need to do is we need to remove these brackets. There's a rivet right here, plastic rivet. We'll have to drill out and rivet those into that bumper. And then I also want to take the grill out, stick the grill shell in here just to give this some support, and then put those brackets in here. That way we can bolt it up to the car and get an idea where it's going to sit. My main concern is going to be this gap from here to the hood. I see a lot of guys having problems with getting this gap right, so having it bolted in with the bumper brackets should give us an idea where that front's going to sit. And we especially want to do that before we start drilling our holes for our push pins on there. I also got an OEM grill piece that goes in here. I did try test fitting it, and It's gonna take some work to get snap in there, but I have some ideas. We'll get to that later, no big deal. And like I said, I did get an SRT8 version belly pan, and that attaches to the bottom of the bumper here, and then to the lower radiator support area where the subframe is, just to try to give this some strength. Since this bumper is kind of flimsy, the more things we can have attached to the bumper, the more support it's going to have once it's on the car. So having the belly pan attached to the bottom of the bumper, having the grill in here, having the grill in there, having the fender liner attached, having the bumper brackets put in here should make this thing sturdy, not sag or have any issues. So let me get these bumper brackets off. Just got to drill out that rivet and get them swapped over, and we'll get the grill out. We'll have to drill our holes in here to secure this grill in there, and then we can finally test fit it on there. All right, now you can see where these indentions are. That's where the holes need to be to get that bracket in. So I'm gonna drill a hole and have to oval these out. Probably use a Dremel or something just to get it cleaned up. And then we can get that bracket riveted in here. That way we can bolt it to the car. And just like that, I got all my holes drilled out. Basically for these ovals, I just drilled on the other side of all these, and then took my Dremel and I found a cutter bit, and it cut right through there, made them oval, and had to drill that hole out. So we should be good to put the bracket on there. I think I'm just gonna put a nut and bolt on here for right now, just to hold the bracket in place, because I wanna take it back out before we paint it. All right, got the bumper bracket in place. If it's good, like I said, just put a screw and a nut in here just to hold it in place for right now. We'll take it back out when we paint it, but let me knock that other side out and we can stick it on. All right, there it is, just sitting on there. Obviously it's not bolted on, but it looks pretty good. I know I said I was gonna put the grill in, but I got a little impatient. Let me close the hood and we'll see how that gap looks. All right, we do have a bit of a gap, but like I said, it's not even fully bolted in yet, and you know, that'll easily seal up. But we're gonna definitely have to clean up these edges, make them transition better, all across here and in here. But that's just sanding. We'll just sand that smooth so that we don't have this weird edge all across. But for the first test fit, I'm gonna say that's success. It fits pretty good. Definitely workable. Fender liner matches up, just like it should. So yeah. Okay, I think next step, we're gonna take it back off, go ahead and put that grill in there, and we'll do the holes for the push pins under the hood, and then actually put it up, bolt it in, and see where we're sitting there. So I got the grill out. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes with the drill, and then these slots for the grill to snap in. So there we go. There's a hole 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can kind of see indentations right here that we'll have to cut out. Probably use the Dremel just like I did the other holes. Probably drill a hole on either end and then slowly work it out with the Dremel. And we should be able to snap the grill in and screw it in from the other side. And that'll be one more thing done on the bumper. All right, got my holes drilled and my slots done. It took a lot of time with the Dremel to get them opened up. I mean, they're not pretty, but those clips on the back of the grill really don't do much holding it in here. It's the screws that really hold it. So let's see if it slides in there. Okay, I got it fully screwed in there. Now it looks pretty good on the sides and the bottom, but up here, you see how it kind of doesn't sit right. I think it has something to do with the way that's sitting up here. You can see those clips aren't even coming through, and I think it's because that material of the bumper is super thick. So there's no way that those tabs are going to come all the way through and snap in, which is not a huge deal because, like I said, the screws are what hold the grill in. But I want it to be flush, and it's not. So I'm going to pull it back out, do a little work till we get it sitting perfect, and we can check the grill off the list. All right, guys, I've been messing with this thing a little bit. I actually had it on the car again, and there's some tweaks that I needed to make. I've been messing with the grill, so let me give you a quick update on where I'm at. As far as the grill goes, I did get these tabs to snap in by grinding a little bit of this plastic up here and up here. So they are snapped in, but I'm still dealing with a little bit of a gap along the top side on the front, but we'll get to that later. Getting these bolts in was kind of tough because I did actually have it bolted on the front of the car. I noticed these brackets are not wanting to sit all the way in here, and due to this molding of the bumper. So I'm going to take these brackets off, clean this out. Same thing over here. You see all this extra plastic, clean that out. Should allow these brackets to sit more flush, maybe move over a little bit. So this hole lines up for the fender. There's a bolt hole there that corresponds with right there. Then another thing I did was I actually got 2 holes marked for the push pins. And what I did was I had the thing bolted on, and remember, like I mentioned, I was kind of worried about this hood gap. So what I did was I gave it just a little bit of pressure, and it came under here with the Sharpie through here and marked my holes just with a little pressure on the front of the bumper. Not a lot, just a tiny bit, just to make sure this gap is nice and tight. And then one more thing I'm going to work on is flattening up these seams here where it matches to the fender. Same thing over here, right up here in this area. It fits pretty good down here. It's just up here. For some reason, it's like they grinded on the edge, and I want to try to make that more square. If you compare it to the factory bumper, it's a nice tight corner here, here. Probably taking my sander after these brackets are off and just sanding flat here, maybe a little here, just to try to get this edge nice and tight. And then once I get those things done, put the brackets back on, and we'll slide it back on the car again and do another test fit. So just be prepared. I mean, if you buy something aftermarket like this, even other aftermarket bumpers, you know, you're gonna have to take some time, test fit on the car, 3-4 times maybe, just depends. Nothing's gonna be perfect like OEM, so patience, take your time, and the more work we put into it now, you know, the better it's gonna look. So we got a $400 bumper, trying to make it look nice compared to OEM. It's not gonna be perfect, but we'll see how close we can get. Okay, I just wanted to show this again. You can see how, you know, it's pretty much flat and then it kind of gets gunky right here and flat again. Same thing on this side. Let's see, right here, it's flat and there's a bunch of extra stuff in here. That's preventing this corner to sit nice and flush in there. So I'm just gonna take my Dremel and flatten that out, clean that up on both sides, and those brackets should fit nice and tight. All right, guys, I got that cleaned up pretty good, and that's definitely sitting in there better. And now that hole is perfectly centered. Same thing over here. Nicely centered, tucks up in there real nice. Okay, now I'm gonna take these back out, sand on these corners, trying to flatten this edge out. Like I said, same thing over here. And we'll see how this sands. Well, I'm not sure how it's gonna go yet. Let me get that knocked out and I'll show you what I come up with. All right, check it out. See how nice that edge looks now? I mean, it's not perfect. I think that radius could be better, but it's much more square than it was. And same thing on this side. Pretty square. It's unfortunate they ground on the bumper before I got it because they got rid of that peak right there. Not much I can do about that because that actually needs material added. I don't think I can add material to it, so that's just gonna have to be what it is. But I got my brackets back in there, so let's throw this thing back in the car for the third time. All right, so here's how we're looking. That seam's looking real nice. Not very tight in here. There is that stud right here with a nut, so that'll tighten that up. That's looking pretty good. I think once this bolt or this nut on this stud here on that bumper bracket pulls that in, pulls this in, that might need a little work right there, but for this side, that's pretty good. It is a little high, so I might sand this and this, but I really don't want to take away from this peak, so I don't know, we'll see. This side, kind of the same thing. It's looking pretty good. Again, that stud right here with the nut, that's looking pretty good. That could use a little work. That radius there, but not too bad. But same thing with this side. It's a little high right there. That just might have to be the way it is. I just don't see a way of sanding this down and then keeping this peak here to match the body line. I don't want to lose that. I don't know, we'll see. As far as the grill goes, again, this is the gap I'm talking about right here. This side's not too bad. There's definitely a gap there. I don't know, what do you guys think? Is that horrible? Is that livable or what? Because it just might have to be that way. I can't figure out a way to get rid of it, so. Other than that, the grill fits nice. Nice and flush. It's not horrible. I did look at other pictures of guys with these bumpers, and a lot of them had this gap right there, so it just may be the mold. It might have to be the way it is, so. Let me shut this hood, and we'll see how that gap's looking. All right, you can see that there is a gap, but like I said, when I marked those holes, all I did was push like that, and it closes right up. Now, my worry here is if I sand this back edge like I did this, it's gonna create more of a gap. But I really don't like this ground down edge. I want it nice and flat. My only option might be to just sand it this way and try to get this more of a tighter angle. It's really bad right here. I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but see how much of an angle there's there? So I just don't want to make the bumper lower than the hood, but I may only be able to sand this way. I don't want to lose material here because, I mean, that's my gap. If I start sanding this backside, it's just gonna make a bigger gap. But my plan with putting the pressure on it before I mark the holes, you know, closes it up. And it'll prevent it from sagging. If we put a little pressure on it and then mark our holes for those upper push pins so that this always has a little bit of pressure on it. Should keep that gap real nice. But we're getting there. So I think what I'm gonna do is take it back off again. I'm gonna try to clean up this radius right here. I'll probably make some marks on where to sand. Maybe flatten this out more because it does kind of bow right here. Maybe sand this whole corner. And then I think that's pretty good. This is pretty good. Then I want to work on this edge all the way across. Sanding it probably, like I said, just the top side, just to make this more of a tight angle. This is looking pretty good. That's looking all right. Maybe sand right there. There's a low spot. And then this curve again, and maybe sand this whole corner. And then probably do another test fit so that I can mark my upper holes last. So the last thing I want to do is mark those upper holes because I do not want a hood gap. And that's a little bit too much for me right there. So I want to do all this sanding and I'll get with you guys after I'm done. All right, guys, I think I got it right where I want it. Now, I didn't film any of the work just because this video is already running long enough. So let me give you a quick rundown of what I've done. All right, so you can see, got this edge looking really nice. And I worked on this edge up here and same thing over here. I already showed you what I did here where I sanded this back side and the front side to try to get a nice corner. Similar to this, how it has a nice corner there, all across here also. Then in the previous clips, I showed you guys how I wanted to try to get this edge nice and sharp, just like these. And I did end up sanding this back side here, as well as this front side, to try to get a nice corner. And you can kind of see it has a nice corner now, whereas before it was rounded. I think my biggest gripe with this bumper is when they take it out of the mold, they grind this whole edge all the way across, all the way down here, and then all the way down here. And it kind of gives it a rounded edge, which I did not want. I really wanted this nice sharp line. And I got it the best I could. Obviously, I didn't want to take too much material off because I was worried about this hood gap, which I got pretty good. The biggest issue is right there and right there. But I mean, I think that's just gonna have to be it. It's not horrible. It's pretty flat. I also got this transition much better. This used to be really high right here. For what I used for sanding, I just used 180 grit. 220 kind of worked also, but 220 tended to ball up the material instead of sanding it. So 180 grit, it's pretty smooth, and it made quick work of sanding this. Now, let me pop the hood and I'm gonna explain what I did for the push pins. All right, you can see I got all my push pins in, and I showed you guys how I marked these two holes. What I did, especially after I got this edge cleaned up, I just put a little pressure on here, and as I put pressure, I reached in from the bottom and marked the holes. And then I didn't have to take it off the drillies. What I did is, this is flexible enough to where I could peel it up, and I used a tiny drill bit just to get a pilot hole through my mark, and then I could take my drill bit for these push pins and I drilled right through there. And also, since I did shave some material off this top edge, it wasn't quite flush with the edge of the hood here. So what I did was, I actually have washers underneath these push pins between the bumper and this bracket. So it kind of lifted the bumper edge a little bit. Same thing here, here, and here. So it kind of lifted this whole edge up to better match the edge of the hood. So just a tip, if you find that this edge is not matching with your hood, just space it up one washer like that. It's underneath there. And it just raised it up just enough to match the hood. So again, I sanded this back edge because they ground down the edge after the mold. And I don't know if maybe the seam here was the part of the two-piece mold. Maybe it left a mold line and they grind it down. I wish they wouldn't have, and that way we can do our own sanding and make that edge nice instead of having to take more material off just to get this edge again. But same thing here, just like I said before, sanded the back side, sanded the front side, all the way across. Same thing, trying to get a crisp line all the way across. And as far as the grill goes, it looks pretty good. There is one little gap here. I think that's just the way it's gonna have to live. So, other than that, need to drill the holes for the fog lights. I got my fog lights here, don't worry about that. Let me pull this off one more time, get that grill fitted, and we can end the video here. And then the next video we'll do how to prep it. All right, I wanted to show you guys this real quick. See how these holes don't really line up? This is what I meant by giving it some pressure. See how it does that? That's how you can get a nice hood gap, by adjusting where you drill these holes. And make sure you drill these holes just big enough for your clips. That way it holds it nice and tight, there's no slack. And for mine, you know, I just need to do that. Do not go off of the imprinted holes in here. You can see how far off that one is. The indentions here, I drill clear over there to get the line up. So same thing there. Don't use these holes as guides. Make your own holes, adjust if necessary to get the right hood gap. The only holes I recommend using that's imprinted in the bumper are those holes for the bumper bracket, because those seem to line up pretty good. Also, what do you guys think? Should I put that factory RT lip on there? Let me know down in the comments. All right, and the final thing we need to do is get this grill piece snapped in here. Now, I've tried snapping this in here before, and what I found was all these tabs were a little too thick. So all I did was come in with the Dremel and trim the sides of all of these, and the same ones on the bottom, just to narrow them up so that they can fit into the slots of the grill piece. Now, I've yet to see anybody with the KBD bumper have that grill piece in there. So I think we can't put this on the car. We can't even paint it until we get this seated in there and know that we can run the grill, because without it, it just looks empty. Also, it gives a lot of support to this lower opening, keeping it from being wavy. So let me see if I can get that snapped in there, and hopefully we can be done. Guys, check that out. I got it in there and I'm freaking pumped. I was so worried that I wasn't gonna be able to get that to fit, seeing that nobody else was running it. Now, it's not perfect. There's still a few clips that aren't snapped in fully. So it might need a little massaging to get some of these clips to actually snap and hold the grill. It'll just be trimming those tabs, the part that notches up off the tab, just making sure that it goes all the way down through the grill, snaps in. But hey, I think that looks pretty good. At least we know that it will fit, no problem. So I think we're done with the test fit. I think this is good enough to start prepping for paint. But just to show you, see how this tab, it's just too thick. We'll just have to trim some of it back so that it snaps into this clip. Same thing here. This one is actually seated. Nice. That one's actually seated. But like this one, we'll have to trim some of the nub off so that it snaps in there. It's just a little too big. It just needs to trim this back edge and it should fit. Basically what I mean is, I got this one marked. I'm just gonna take a little bit off of this edge. That'll allow the clip to slide in and snap in. Same thing this one. That one needs a little bit. That one snapped in. This one needs a little bit. Now obviously you just wanna take a little bit off at a time. You don't want to trim too much because you want this to be a nice tight fit in the grill. All right, that's going to do it for this video. I know it's long, but I wanted to give as much info as possible so that if you buy one of these, you know what to expect. It's not perfect. It was $300 plus shipping. Of course, it's going to need a little work. It's just the way it goes. But if you put a little time in, I have a feeling it's going to look pretty good on the car. So in the next video, we'll go over how to prep this thing, how to prime it, and paint it in your garage with spray cans. And yes, it'll look okay, I promise. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video, and I'll see you on the next one.